Hello, Serious Survivor here. Today we'll talk about the need for prepping. And a lot of people who are not preppers, a lot of people who don't believe in prepping, have the difference of opinion that it may be or may not be necessary to have any types of preps on hand. When we think about prepping, it's not just about an environmental disaster, a pandemic, or a nuclear war. What about a hurricane? What about an earthquake that kills power for 2-3 weeks? What about a flood? What about other natural disasters that can cause you to leave your home or to try to survive in a home that's nothing but a shell without power, water, or any form of electricity whatsoever? This type of survival is a lot more difficult. The human body does have requirements that have to be met just to live another day. And humans have a will to survive. So nobody that I know wants to starve to death or anything like that. Nobody I've ever met wants to freeze to death because they don't have electricity or any means of heat in the winter. Nobody wants to be killed in any type of natural disaster. So we all have the will to survive, the desire to survive. And to do this without being prepared is a difficult task. Not to mention just the natural disasters, but we also have to keep in mind the type of events that could change the world permanently. And these are the events that a lot of people do prep for, and it's necessary to be prepared for anything that can happen. Something I believe is that we can't prep for everything, but we can prep for anything. Now, some of these events, when we talk about very short-term events, these are not going to last very long, and the world will return to its normal, everyday society within a reasonable amount of time. But of course, there are events that can change everything forever, and these are the type of events that, without the proper preparation, then one doesn't stand much of a chance of making it very long into this event, at least not without sustaining heavy damage and possible loss of life to those around you. These type of events have devastating effects and range from a nuclear war to asteroid impact to worldwide or global pandemic, things such as that. Global events, things that change the world forever. These are things that we do have to take into account, and we don't sit around all the time just worrying and thinking about these events, but we just try to prepare ourselves the best we can. So this is a very real subject to talk about, and 72 hours seems to be what a lot of people recommend. That type of stockpile, we keep enough food, enough water to last for 72 hours. Personally, I think that more is better, because at 72 hours is when everyone else is going to run out of food and water, and that's when things are going to start to get extremely hectic if they're not already. You're probably already in a difficult situation, and now to make things worse, your neighbors, the people across the street, the people from the other side of town, from downtown, from the next neighborhood over, are going to be looking for food and water too. You're going to have another threat to deal with there, and that's a very real threat. If it's people that you know extremely well, then it's probably help and benefit you to have some sort of group established with your neighbors that, hey, if the power does go out, we can all sort of band together and help each other get along for a little while. So while everyone else is out fighting, searching, desperately hunting food, then you'll have at least a stockpile of food in your house to last a little while longer. That's why I suggest a month. And this gives you the ability to lay low if you need to. Now, depending on the situation, you may not even be able to stay there, but if you're able to stay, it's best to not attract any type of attention to yourselves if you're alone or alone with your family in a dwelling, a family type house or something. So if you're with a group of people, and if you have started a group, then that's always a good idea too. And having a group that you can bug out to and meet this group at a location increases not only your chances of surviving, but also of thriving in that particular situation. If we have to stay in our home, then we definitely want more than 3 days of food. We want about 30 days of food. And that sounds like a lot, and it actually, of course, it is a lot. There are a lot of different types of packages and things that you can buy that can give you, 30 days of food for you and your whole family for just a few $100. So being prepped is never a bad idea. It might be a bad idea to prep items that you're definitely not going to need, but when it comes to food, when it comes to water and means of water purification or producing water through solar steels and things such as that, this isn't just a skill or something that, is you think about just the end of the world, but when you lose power, a lot of times you lose water too in some type of natural disaster. Or if the water is contaminated, you need to know how to purify it. So the need for prepping should be self-evident. The question shouldn't be, why do we prep? The question should be, why don't we prep? Everyone should have a little more, and I realize that financial constraints do stop some of us from having as much as we want. I know that feeling just as much as anybody else, and I would have a much larger supply if I were more financially able to purchase thousands of dollars at a time, which I can't. But being prepped is a necessity. If you have no food, no water in your house, or just barely enough to last you 1 or 2 days, and the grid is down and there's chaos for whatever reason, what do? You just try to wait it out, sit there with no water, and you're gonna go out and look for it, and that's gonna put you in the middle of the chaos and in a dangerous situation. If you're with a group that's trained together and things such as that, and this is going to be a lot easier, but on your own in the middle of a large city or something, trying to find the same thing that everybody else is trying to find, water and food, it's probably going to be some conflict along the way. So this is another factor that you have to worry about. If you have the water supply, then you can't avoid that initial conflict, the unnecessary conflict. You want to avoid that when you can. And having your own supply and the ability to just lay low will obviously mathematically reduce the number of times you encounter other people, so that's the less times that you're going to have to defend yourself against people who may try to take what you have. So the need for prepping is a need that doesn't go away. It's a need that's always going to be there. And there seems to be some type of stigma associated with preppers these days, where people try to attach a stigma to it. That's where we ask the question, why do people who don't prep, or why do non-preppers tend to almost fear or be angry at preppers? They sometimes it gets, some people get very defensive about the subject. Some people talk about it openly. There seems to be a huge distance between the groups. And really, I think a lot of non-preppers are thinking that most preppers are just, paranoid and wear tinfoil hat types and sitting around talking about government conspiracies and all. And maybe we do a little sometimes, but overall, we're just living our lives like everybody else. We're just a little more prepared when necessary. When I say, why do non-preppers fear preppers? I don't necessarily mean fear preppers in the typical sense of the word, that somebody is cowering in a corner, shaking or trembling with fear. What I mean is the type of fear like some people fear change. Some people fear the unknown. Some people fear things they haven't seen before. That type of fear. The fear of failure. The fear of not being able to take care of those that you care about. And a lot of people, in my opinion, do have anger towards preppers and a little resentment simply due to the fact that I believe most non-preppers realize that without any preparation, one day there will be an event in which their family needs to have planned ahead. And I guess sometimes people have a difficult time when you place them in the situation, or when they have to think about the situation of having to face their families and say, no, I didn't prepare. I spent that extra money on a vacation, or I got a little bit nicer car. So you can't really blame the people who did prep. Non-preppers may tend to think that every prepper is going to take it to extremes and try and put us all into one category, but that's just not the way it is. Prepping is just a way of making sure that your family is taken care of in a natural disaster, or doing what you can. You can't control the disaster. You can't control a man-made event, a nature or a natural event. You can't control what happens when these events occur, but you can control how you can react to them. And having the necessary supplies and having the proper gear and training and mindset also will go a long ways in surviving any type of event that you encounter. A lot of non-preppers tend to think that preppers always prep for certain events. And this may be true with some people, but a lot of people are more general preppers. We may have a specific event in mind saying, this seems to me me like it's very logical or very possible that it's going to happen in the future or the immediate future. Some of us just prepare from more of a generalized structure, a structure that enables us to adapt and react to multiple different types of events. By having some of the same skills and same gear that's necessary for each individual event, a lot of this gear is interchangeable and can be used for multiple events. So most people aren't sitting around staring at the sky looking for a nuclear bomb falling. We're just prepared. If something like that does happen, then we're going to be able to take care of our family and defend them. But no matter what the type of event, the fact remains that if we don't have the physical items that our body needs, then we will become seriously ill and possibly die from the situation. So, and a lot of non-preppers tend to associate preppers with very paranoid types, but just the opposite, really. You know, as a prepper, it's not so much that you're paranoid, but you're prepared. There is a disaster somewhere in the world each and every day, and odds are one day we will all be a victim to some of these disasters. But having these skills and having the ability to use the gear and equipment that we associate with all of our different types of prepping is a valuable tool. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, about the difference between non-preppers and preppers. Non-preppers, I don't know, a lot of them just simply don't see the need. And a lot of them, maybe they're just a little too dependent on a government that promises that it's going to keep us safe and take care of us. But through the study of history shows that every government at some point in time has fallen in one way or another. So this happens all the time. The need for prepping, some people just need to think a little more about it and say, well, it's not a bad idea to keep this extra food, to invest $20 a week for a couple of months. And so in the comments below, let me know what you think about why do you think that non-preppers tend to fear or tend to disdain preppers from time to time? Just out of curiosity, I'd like to see people's comments on that, and to keep an eye on the channel. We got a lot more videos to be coming out, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully bring some good information out there, some maybe a little quality entertainment. For now, Serious Survivor, out.